Being an older sibling is tough. Now, obviously, every position in the sibling hierarchy has its own pros and cons, even the siblings that solo queue. I'm talking about only childs. Since I'm not a younger or middle sibling or an only child, I won't be speaking on any of those. But I will be speaking on my ridiculous experiences being an older sibling. Now, if you've watched some of my other videos, specifically these videos, which you should probably go watch after this, then you would know that I have a little brother. Now, if I'm being real transparent here, growing up, I was convinced that this kid could not possibly be my brother, because that would mean that my brother was spawned from the darkest depths of hell. I mean, I really thought that this kid was going to grow up to be a serial killer, and I was going to have to be the one to stop him. One time, my mama took my brother up for something, and when they came back, he was sitting in a stroller holding a plastic water bottle with something inside. And when I asked him what was in it, he held it up, revealing a frozen dead mouse. Dead rat.
Oh, fuck, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Put that in the video. If they can hear me, this is the little brother right here. I'm confirming what happened.
Yeah, it's all facts. This kid had somehow caught a field mouse in his water bottle and rode around with it all day in his stroller. And since it was the winter, by the time he got home, the mouse froze to death. And at this point, I'm just looking at my mom like, what the f***? And not only did he bring this frozen dead mouse home, but he then said he wanted to cut it open and see what was inside. Hello? Am I the only person in this house who's watched a serial killer documentary? And so he cut the poor dead mouse open on the living room floor on a sheet of paper. Yeah, my little brother was a fucking gremlin. Now, being an older sibling typically comes with the role of having extra responsibilities, such as basically everything your mom doesn't feel like doing, and a couple other things, like watching your younger siblings. And I grew up with parents who weren't really around the house much. I mean, we had to pay the bills somehow, and I apparently had to pay for my sins, because I was fortunate enough to be appointed unpaid babysitter to this fucking house spawn. When we were kids in the summer, my mom would make us breakfast before she left for work, so we had something to eat when we woke up. And I remember one day, I had woken up, and my little brother was already awake playing on the Wii. And seeing that there wasn't much food on the stove, I assumed that he ate already, so I helped myself to the rest. But little did I know, I just made a mistake that would trigger a battle to the death. Because a little bit after I finished eating, I suddenly heard screaming from the kitchen, followed by my bedroom door swinging open, and my brother standing there, red in the face, screaming, crying, and holding a knife. I mean, really, bro? I didn't split the scrambled eggs and fried spam and you're pulling a knife on me? Really? Now, obviously, I'm alive, and no, my brother didn't stab me, but he did throw a knife at me and then attack me with a Wii remote. And that experience wasn't exactly unique. I mean, I've gotten a hole stabbed in my leg with a pen, got hit with a pot lid, kicked in my balls multiple times. But today's main story is going to be focused on a series of back-to-back events that made me think about sealing my brother away into a ninja baby from a faraway village to hopefully never be released again. So we start this story off on a Friday, and I was in the 8th grade, my brother was in the 4th grade. So that week, me and a couple of my friends had made plans to play laser tag on the weekend, and we were all hyped up because it was Friday now, and tomorrow was laser tag day with the boys. Now, the middle school I went to wasn't in my own neighborhood, so I had to take the school bus or the public transit to get to and from school. And this Friday, I had stayed back to hang out with my friends, and I missed the school bus. And since I was the one responsible for taking my brother to and from school, he also had to stay behind with me, and we were going to have to take the transit together. So we get to the bus stop, and we're waiting there, and then suddenly, I hear a deep, long growling sound. And then I look around, and I realize it was my stomach. I was fucking starving. I hadn't eaten anything that day except for a cheese sandwich and a stale Rice Krispie bar. So I decided to ask my brother if he still had food from his lunch in his lunchbox. So then he handed me his lunchbox and he let me check it. So I opened it up and it's fucking dirty as hell. I mean, it looked like someone committed bloody murder in that lunchbox. But then I see something in a Ziploc bag. The last corner bite of a cheese sandwich. Really not much at all, but I was hungry, so I asked my brother if I could eat it, and he said yeah, so I ate it. And then the bus came, and we got on and sat down. And so far, everything had been fine. My brother wasn't acting out today, and I thought it was going to be a good rest of the day. And then out of nowhere, this kid punched me in my shin. So I look over at him, and I'm like, what the f*** was that for? And I can see that he isn't even having fun doing this. He just looks like he's mad. Now, obviously, I don't want to perform a WWE move on my brother in the middle of this bus, so I'm just trying to block his feet with my feet while I semi-whisper at him to chill out and find out what exactly his problem is. Then we finally get to the bus stop on our street, which mind you is still a 5-minute walk from our apartment, and we get off the bus, and this whole time I've just been brainstorming what could possibly have pushed this kid over the rails like this. And then it hit me. Are you mad about that piece of your cheese sandwich? Alright, well, that settles it. This kid was losing his shit because I ate 1 cubic inch of his cheese fucking sandwich. And it didn't stop there. In fact, it only got worse. Because now that I brought up the issue in question, he was freaking out even more, and then he started running away. Now, of course, at the time, I wished I could have just let him run off into the sunset while I go the home. But I knew if my mom came home to one of her sons missing in the wild, I was going to be the one to blame. So I chase him up the street to where he then runs behind the dump by the local vet. And his crying and screaming got the attention of basically anyone in a mile radius, so one of the vets comes outside. Now, when I saw that vet, I knew this was going to get even worse for me. So this lady comes out of the vet, and she's like, hey, why don't you listen to your brother and come out? And she was being super nice, but my brother didn't want anyone's kindness. So she says this, and then he looks at her, and goes and runs off. So I continued to chase down this wild animal that was somehow related to me, and I ended up catching him and picking him up like I was about to suplex him, and I start walking him up the street where I can now see our building. And the whole time he's desperately kicking and swinging to get out until he manages to scratch my face with his nails. And he actually cut me right above my lip, deep enough to leave a scar on my face. You wouldn't notice it now unless I pointed it out, but it's still there. And then he manages to slip out and run off again. And I'm literally seconds away from being at my apartment, watching this kid just run off, and at that point, I turned around and looked at the traffic, and I debated for a second. But then I saw something that turned my thoughts of hopelessness into pure relief. My mom was walking up the sidewalk, coming back from work. And at that moment, I immediately told my mom that my brother ran off behind one of the other buildings and asked her to save my life. And so she went to go get him, and finally, I got to go home. So at this point, I just wanted to stay as far away from my brother as I possibly could, because I just couldn't handle his antics much longer. And then the evening comes around, and my mom asked me if I still plan to go to laser tag with my friends tomorrow. And I was like, yeah. And then she told me that I was going to have to bring my brother, because he can't be left home alone. I just wanted to fucking explode right there. But I knew that if I wanted to play laser tag this weekend, I had no other options. So fast forward to the next day, and me and my brother get to the laser tag place where we meet up with a couple of my friends. Now the plans were originally made with 6 of us, and now including my brother there would be 7, except one of my friends was missing. We'll call him Josh. Now Josh was a chill guy, fun friend to hang out with, overall good company, but he also was kinda slow. And even more so, geographically blind as shit. So I called Josh to see where he's at, and he asked me how to get to the laser tag place. And I start giving him street names and telling him the places that are close by, and he just goes, okay, but how do you get there? And that's when I realized someone had to go get this guy. And being that I was probably the best person there with directions, I told Josh to stay where he was and that I would come get him. And so far that day, my brother was pretty decently behaved. I'm guessing because he wanted to play laser tag. So I told my friends to watch my brother while I go get Josh. Now Josh was like a 30-minute walk away, so I had to hop on a bus to actually get to him. So I take the bus down and then I walk a little bit and I meet up with Josh, and then we start heading back to the laser tag place. And then my phone rings. And one of my friends, Malik, is calling, so I pick up and all I can hear is heavy breathing and wind.
Yeah, I get your dad's butthole, though.
I get your daddy's butthole. Your daddy's big brown stinking butthole. It's all mine.
And I'm like, yo, Malik, what happened? And Malik, who is clearly tired and choking on his breath, barely manages to get out the words, your brother ran away. And of course, Malik had been chasing him this whole time. And I'm just sitting there like, wow, I will never have true peace. So I tell Malik to update me and that I would handle it as soon as I get back with Josh. So we finally make it back, and I see Malik standing in the middle of a parking lot across the street from the laser tag place. So I run over there and he sees me, and he's still panting from chasing this gremlin around, and then he points to a gym right ahead of us and tells me my brother ran in there. So now I get into the gym to see my brother running around the gym like a monkey on meth with gym employees trying to come out and stop him. So I go in there and I try telling the lady at the desk that was my brother, and as I'm trying to tell her this kid comes running to the front door and just runs right past me. So now I'm chasing him back outside, where he then ran into a Benny's. And as all this is happening, it's like I can feel the whole world slowly crumbling at my feet. So I run into the Benny's after him, and that's when I see this kid sprint straight towards the back. And as he sprints back there, a waitress is coming out holding 2 trays of milkshakes. And if you haven't guessed it by now, this kid plows into this waitress head first, making her knock over all the milkshakes she was carrying, which not only fell on the floor, her and my brother, but also a table of 6 people who were patiently waiting for their milkshakes. And that's when my brother realizes he's now cornered. I'm standing between him and the entrance, and everyone is up and gathering around this mess, and everyone's just covered in milkshake, and it's just a real situation. But surprisingly, my brother didn't throw a fit or anything. He just quietly gave up. And I went over to the manager, who was now trying to figure out what was going on, and I explained the situation, and even though everyone was still kind of pissed off, the customers got some free shit off the menu, and the manager let my brother off the hook. I think mainly because he was a kid and because of the look of pain and agony on my face, and even the angry customers just did their best not to go off on us. And then we left. And then when me and my brother got outside into the parking lot, he stopped walking and he turned his head to look at me. And I was like, what? And he goes, can we still play laser tag? But yeah, somehow the stars managed to align, and now my brother is actually pretty normal. In fact, we're actually pretty cool now. How did that possibly happen? I have no idea, but those were some of my experiences being an older sibling. Of course, there's countless more stories I could tell, but we'll save those for another day. Now, I know you guys have been asking me about my socials, so I went ahead and made a new Instagram page. So for those of you guys who want to keep up with my content and see what's new, as well as some bonus content, I make sure to go follow that. The link's in the description. Also, I know a lot of you guys are waiting on part 2 of the Valentine's Day story, and as promised, it is coming next. So you guys can look forward to that next week. And as usual, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.